Oh yeah. Hey everybody, welcome back to Flat Top Gaming. My name is Kyle. This is the first of 3 videos I want to make on the narrative dice mechanic for the Star Wars role-playing game system brought to you by Fantasy Flight Games. This is the same dice mechanic for all 3 of their core book lines, whether that's Edge of the Empire, Age of Rebellion, or Force and Destiny. Now, the reason I want to make these videos is because the narrative dice system tends to be the main hang-up that people have when they are trying to get into this game. You know, if you have been playing D20 based systems for any length of time, you have bags full of standard polyhedral dice, and so a lot of people say, well, why should I even invest in a game that requires me to go out and buy silly looking dice? And I can get that. I understand that point of view. So hopefully these videos will help you kind of see the power of the system and why you should invest in the funny looking dice and give this system a try. The other main argument people have about the system is, a buddy of mine, one of my home group players, when I was first describing the system to him about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago now, looked at me and said, why would I want to play a system that would punish me for succeeding? I can succeed but still have something bad go on. So I want to try and explain some of that to you, give you a good little heads up of how the system works, and hopefully by the end of these 3 videos you'll agree with me that the narrative dice system is not a hang-up about Fantasy Flight Games system. In fact, the narrative dice should be the reason you jump on this system tomorrow. So let's start off this video looking at these different symbols that are on the dice. There are 6 main symbols that are on the good and bad dice that you'll use for the majority of your rolls. We'll talk about the force die and the light side and dark side pips that are on it in the second video. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on that today. So let's talk about the 6 different symbols that are present on the narrative dice. One of the strengths of the narrative dice system is that there are actually 3 levels of success, or 3 axes of success. There's the raw ability to succeed, there's advantage or threat, and triumph and despair. I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about each of those. So the first axis of success that you'll see is just raw success versus failure. In order to pass a check, you have to roll more successes than failures. Successes and failures, as well as the next category we'll talk about, cancel each other out. So when you make your roll, a success symbol and a failure symbol cancel each other out. And so you look at whatever your net leftover pool is. In order to pass a check, all you need is 1 net success. As long as you have 1, you pass. Subsequent or additional successes can mean that you learn more information, you accomplish your task faster, things along those lines. The success versus failure is the only way that you can be successful at your task. Now, the second axis of success is advantage versus threat. Advantage and threat are mechanical as well as narrative boons or setbacks that occur based around your check. As I kind of alluded to with successes and failures, advantages and threats have no bearing whatsoever on whether or not you accomplish your task. They have to do with everything in the scene surrounding your accomplishment of the task. Let's give you an example. So let's say that you succeed. Using the previous set of symbols, we succeeded the check. However, we generated some threat. That means that something bad is happening to you as a result of your check. You're searching for some information on a computer. You succeed, you got that information, but the threat is that on the way you tripped an alarm or let somebody know that you're hacking through the system. Let's say that you're trying to shoot someone. You miss, you fail the shot, but you had some advantage. Maybe your blaster bolt went wild and shot the door and closed the door off so reinforcements couldn't enter into the fight. Advantages and threat provide both mechanical as well as narrative boons and setbacks. So read up on the rules on exactly how you can use them, things like that. But again, they have absolutely no bearing on whether or not you succeed. That's what the successes and failures are for. The third avenue of success is the triumph versus despair. Much like advantages and threat, these have no bearing on whether or not you accomplish your task. However, they have huge bearing on the story and on the scene and the narrative around it. So, triumphs are something really, really awesome that occur. Consequently, despairs are something really, really bad that happens. And again, this has no bearing on whether or not you accomplish your task. Now, the triumph symbol also counts as success for purposes of the success track. So when you roll a triumph, you not just have the triumph, but you also succeed. Now, there's a unique thing about the triumph and despair axis that the other two are not, or the other two don't have. Like I said before, successes and failures cancel each other out. Same way, advantages and threats cancel each other out. Triumphs and despairs don't. That means it is possible to both triumph and have something terribly, terribly awful happen in the same roll. So the big implication about all three of these axes of success is that they are able to work together to give you a narrative, cinematic story. Now, why would you want this? Why would you want three avenues of success when, standard D20s, D&D, or Pathfinder have been using one avenue of success before and been just fine? Well, have you ever watched a Star Wars movie or most Hollywood films and seen the character just accomplish their task and have no outside effects or ramifications on the overall story? I haven't. My wife and I watched episode 4 together a couple of days ago, and so that's fresh in my mind. Think about how toward the middle of the movie, Luke and Leia they just left the trash chute, and they are running toward the Millennium Falcon, being chased by stormtroopers. They round a corner and head up a ramp, and they're there at the chasm when the bridge is out. And Leia closes the door, and it won't lock. Luke says, "I'll get it," and he shoots the control panel for the lock. Well, in that roll, imagine he rolled a success. He wanted to lock the door with his blaster, and he did. But he probably rolled a lot of threat, too, because he also blew out the bridge controls. Stormtroopers appeared on the other side of the chasm from him, and then the stormtroopers behind him started to get through the door. That's a lot of threat, maybe even a despair or two. But he was successful at his overall check. If this was a standard D20 system, it says, I want to lock the door, and I'm going to roll a D20. Boom, I succeed. Now what? Well, the door's locked, so okay, cool. The other thing that this narrative system does is that it has specific rules for who talks about what. The core rulebooks encourage players to describe what happens both with advantages as well as triumphs, while the game master gets to talk about and describe what happens with threats and despairs. This really makes it so that players cannot hide. I know in my home game for D&D, it's very easy for some of my players to kind of just sit there, pick up the D20 and roll it on the table, and I'll sit there and say, what even was this roll for? Well, I'm attacking them. Okay, how? With my sword, I'm beating them. Great. What's your number? A 17. Okay, you hit. What's your damage? 3. Great, that was exciting. Okay, next character. Whereas with the narrative dice system, okay, I'm making your check, you roll your dice, and oh, I succeeded. Oh, but there's 2 threat and a triumph. What do you want to do with your triumph? Oh, I want to do a critical injury. Okay, let's look at the critical injury table. Oh, you do you hit them so bad their arm falls off. Describe how that happens. Or with your triumph, what do you want to do with your triumph? Oh, I want to make it so that in addition to shooting him, I shoot the fuel tanks that are behind him, and there's a big explosion, and it makes it so that we can get out of there very quickly. Oh, cool, that's awesome, go for it. with those threats, I'm going to make it so that where you are trying to run from, more bad people come. But because of the players having to describe what happens with their advantages and their triumphs, it makes it so that the players have a game master moment where they have to come up with something off the top of their head and play the role of the game master for a minute. Now, the game master does have the ability to say, okay, that's not quite worth, 2 advantages. That would be worth 4 advantages. What about this? Or what's something a little bit less that you could do that would still give you an advantage? So it gives the game master some level of control while also forcing the player to step up and really start narratively describing their character and role-playing. So those are the 3 axes of success. Those are all of the symbols that are present on the main die. Tune in for the next episode in this series to talk about what the different die are, what they mean, and things like that. I'm Kyle for Flat Top Gaming. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Also, leave me any feedback in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you.